in airport cafe, avec un alone, unnoticed, a cup of black coffee. At 76, Frank Delaney was no longer a warrior. He was just a story no one cared to hear. But then, a young Navy SEAL walked by. He paused. His eyes caught a faded tattoo, something that only appears in veteran stories no one talks about. In that moment, the world stopped for him. And from that moment on, justice for veterans was no longer a slogan. It was something that had to happen. Frank Delaney used to be a name whispered in military hallways. Now, he's just a 76-year-old man, sitting at a cold plastic table, hands trembling as he folds a long-distance bus ticket. No one knows. He once parachuted into gunfire. No one realizes. He once dove deep under black seas, carrying his team's last hope. Now, it's all packed in a worn backpack and a black coffee going cold. Frank doesn't tell stories. He doesn't show off medals. And he doesn't ask for attention. But even if he stays silent his whole life, something in his hands is quietly speaking for him. Logan Carter, new generation SEAL, just completed training at Coronado. He walks in, tired but alert. His eyes scan the room, a soldier's reflex, then stop. Not on Frank's face, but on a faded tattoo beneath a rolled sleeve. The globe, the anchor, the poised eagle, and something else, a vintage diver's helmet. Logan freezes. His heart skips a beat. This isn't fake. Not some try-hard ink for clout. This is the mark of a time he's only read about in classified files. Logan turns and walks directly toward the old man. "Excuse me, that tattoo, is it real, sir?" Frank furrows his brow. He instinctively pulls his sleeve down. A brief pause. Then he looks directly at Logan, not angry, just tired. "Yeah, Force Recon, 62 to 65, Little Creek." Logan freezes, his heart yanked back across decades. Company A, 1st Force Recon, joint with UDT, the origin of modern SEALs. He swallows hard. "Did you ever serve with Iron Mike Stratton?" Frank doesn't answer right away. He gazes out the window, then nods gently. And that moment changed how Logan would see the old man forever. Logan couldn't keep it to himself. He pulls out his earpiece and looks back at his Team 3 SEALs from the same flight. "You guys, come here. Quick." They approach. The group surrounds Frank's table. One bends slightly, inspecting the faded ink. "No way. This is old school UDT." No one speaks up. No need. Their posture shifts, from curiosity to reverence. They stand tall, eyes locked on Frank. One places a hand on his chest in silent salute, and Frank just bows slightly, smiling faintly. The youngest SEAL leans in and asks, "Did you ever jump into Quezon at night?" Frank lifts his head, eyes deep and still. "That night, I lost 2 friends. We jumped 5 miles from target at 2 a.m. Water was freezing. We swam in darkness, could only see each other's eyes." Frank doesn't boast. He recalls from memoria as if scenes still played before him. "When we landed, we were ambushed. Ramirez took the first hit. I dragged him to cover, but there was no pulse." The SEALs fall silent. No one interrupts. A veteran was opening chapters never printed in textbooks. People remember victories. Me, I only remember those who didn't come back. Then Logan quietly asks, "Sir, where's that bus taking you?" "I'm heading to New Jersey. My granddaughter's graduating college." He pulls a small photo from his shirt pocket, a young woman in a cap and gown, smiling brightly. "She's the first in our family to get a degree." Logan glances at the bus ticket, 28 hours nonstop. "You're taking a long-distance bus just to make it to graduation?" Frank nods. "I miss too much of my son's life. I won't miss my granddaughter's." The SEALs fall silent. Their eyes no longer held just respect, but something deeper. Lieutenant, Hawkins SEAL team leader suddenly stands, pulls out a sat phone and says, "We're handling this, right now." Lieutenant Ryan Hawkins stood like he was back in an op zone. "This is Priority Alpha, requesting honorable transport for Force Recon veteran Frank Delaney." his voice clear, firm, resolute. Logan and Jax head to the counter, covering Frank's entire bill. Ethan Brooks sends coordinates to the nearest USO office. Frank still can't quite believe it. He starts to protest, but Logan interrupts. "This isn't charity, it's our duty." Frank smiles for the first time in years. Light flickers behind his tired eyes. A message pops on Hawkins' screen. VIP flight confirmed. Escort vehicle arriving in 20 minutes. A military SUV marked with the SOCOM insignia pulls up outside the cafe. The driver steps out, dressed in uniform. Opens the rear door, stands at attention for Frank. The seals form 2 lines. No commands, no speeches. Just reverence. Frank rises, picks up his worn backpack, walks slowly between the men. Logan places a firm hand on his shoulder. "I never met you in combat, sir, but today I'm honored to escort you home." Frank can't speak. His face no longer just that of a forgotten old man. Now, it's the face of living history. As he steps into the SUV, Frank turns and asks softly, "Why are you doing all this for someone like me?" "Because if we forget you, one day we'll all be forgotten too." Frank stares at him, his eyes no longer tired. "No one's ever said that to me before." Logan smiles. "Maybe they never got the chance to meet you." The SUV rolls forward. Outside, the cafe patron stands silently, watching them with eyes nothing like before. At the security gate, an airport staff member bows slightly and whispers, "Welcome back, Marine." Frank walks slowly through security. Logan at his side, like an honorary escort. TSA doesn't ask for checks. They just nod. One places a hand over his heart. "Thank you for your service, sir." At the gate, passengers glance up. No one knows who Frank is, but then they see the special lanyard Priority Alpha. One stands, then another, then the whole row. No applause, just standing, heads bowed. The silence thundered louder than claps. Frank stands motionless. He hasn't been received like this since the day he was discharged. A flight attendant opens the plane door, smiling softly. "Seat 1A. Welcome aboard, Mr. Delaney." Frank takes his seat on EA. First row, window side. His hand reaches for the seatbelt, then pauses. In that moment, the engine's whir becomes a Huey helicopter's thump. The wind turns into the roar of a midnight sea. Part of him still left in the jungles of long ago. Another part, flying home to a future in a graduation gown. Logan sits across, saying nothing. He knows not to interrupt memory. Frank pulls out a small fabric patch from his pocket stitched with 2 names. This is where they should be sitting. The flight attendant gently places a cup of black coffee on his tray. Frank looks down, smiles. Just bitter enough to remember. Frank steps through the arrival gate. In his hand, just an old backpack. In the distance, a young woman in a graduation gown stands on tiptoe, searching. When her eyes meet his, she cries out through tears, "Grandpa!" Frank freezes like his body needs a moment to believe he's really made it. She runs to him, throws her arms around him. "I'm sorry I missed your 8th birthday. But today, I couldn't miss this." She cries. But these are tears of healing. From afar, Logan and the SEAL team simply watch. Frank turns, raises a hand in salute. But this time, like a commanding officer. A photo of Frank and his granddaughter hugging at the airport gate, taken by a stranger, went viral within hours. Headlines read, "Unknown veteran becomes living symbol of gratitude." Other veterans began sharing their stories. Schools launched Meet the Silent Heroes Days. Frank never went on TV. He didn't accept money or new medals. He simply said, "I don't need people to remember my name. I just need them not to forget those who didn't make it home." That night, Frank wrote a letter by hand to Logan, and inside, just one line. "You didn't know it, but you saved me from being forgotten." Frank Delaney was a man, not a monument, not a walking medal, just someone who gave his youth and got silence in return. But on one ordinary morning at the airport, a single glance changed everything. Justice for Veterans believes justice isn't just verdicts. It's when a quiet old soldier is invited to the front of the line. We don't need more statues. We need fewer heroes treated like nobodies. If this touched you, share it so no one like Frank is ever forgotten again.